Okay, so now we can actually start making some websites. Um, the first thing to do with that is actually just to get set up and understand how to load a website to the browser, because it might not be obvious yet. So the first thing to do is just open a file with Notepad for now. Will be fine, and then write just an HTML tag, because HTML has a syntax that is made in tags. So you just write HTML. This needs to be closed. You should specify the doc type. And doc type is HTML. And that's very important for some browsers. If you don't have that, then the whole thing might crash. Normally it's not too much of a problem, but it's just good to have it. It looks good too. Then you specify the body, and you can see that all these things that I'm writing down, I write them in these inverted little arrows, and that's how how HTML is laid out. And so here we see, and then we could write a big title, so a header 1 that says "Hello World." Okay, so now we have an extremely simple HTML file. So what you do is you just save it save it into a place where you can find it. So maybe just in Documents, and you save it as a .html file. So I can put hello.html, and that will save it in Documents as hello.html. So then you can find that file. Let's see where it is. I bet you've already seen it. Hello, there we go. And it's got the Chrome browser thing. And you can just drag it straight from the folder onto the browser, into the URL. And you can see right here, you load it, and it will say "Hello World." And you can see that all the tags are not displayed, because that's how HTML works, and that's what the browser renders. And if you inspect this page, you can see right here that you have exactly what I wrote here, the HTML. So you can do this on your device right now, just to see, and this is the basic. And Notepad can work for very simple sites like these, but after you get a bit more complicated and you have a bit more code, it's better to use an actual HTML editor. So what you'll have to do now, I love this program called Notepad++. So just go to their website, like this. I already have it, but then you can just download the latest release, and I'll show you what it looks like. And what it does, these HTML and just code editors will color every part of the code in different colors. So if I open this up with Notepad++, you can see how it works. So all the tags are colored in blue, so you can see it very clearly. And when you write something, you write a tag that is not registered in HTML, so something like red, it will put it in pink because it's a illegal tag. So it's very useful to have Notepad++. So just download this, and then you can do all the editing in here. But here we have it. So we have our first a very very simple website, and this is the beginning of HTML. Um, Now, we still haven't talked about styling, because uh, this is a very boring site. This is just saying hello world, and you might be wondering how you can make it a little bit better. And we're not going to make a beautiful site right now, but the first thing to do is to specify a head, head and body, two head links. And then you have to link to a style sheet, and we still haven't made the style sheet, so maybe that would be a good thing to do. So we just open a new file, and we save it in the same folder as where we save this. So we save it in my documents. This is not very good at organizing, but it's not bad. So, and we call it hello, and we don't save it as anything except CSS, so cascading style sheet. We save that, and now we have in the same folder an HTML file and a CSS file. Okay, but and as I said before, hello. All you have to do here is specify what you want to style. So here the h1. So we specify h1, and then let's say we want to make it I don't know, blue. So you can just say color blue. About that. And that's just the syntax. So you open curly brackets, you put the value, end it with a colon, and then close the curly bracket. Save that, and right now it still won't do anything because we still haven't linked it. So we have to put a link tag still in the head. That's where the head is important. So you put link, and then you put in some attributes because HTML is not just designed with tags. It's tags and attributes because there are only a limit of tags, and especially in the head when you're specifying metadata like the linking and the scripts, you need to have a bit more detail than just the tag. So you just put the rel tag and you call it style sheet because that's what it is, style sheet. And then you call the type, and the type is text, CSS, and all the attributes need to have equals in front of them, like that. And then we have to tell it what file to link, and that's where the href just means basically the link, the path, the file path. And since it's in the same folder, all you have to do is put the name of the file. So just put hello.css, and then close the link, like that. And if you save that and reload, you can see that now it's blue. So I mean, it's not very very pretty, but you can understand how it works. Now we could add a paragraph. A paragraph is in P, and we can close it down here. Oops. And I can say, let's put some Latin text. This lorem ipsum is what is normally done to represent text for web developers. So you can just put that. A paragraph is just another kind of file, and you can see that translate now. That's going to be displayed right under there. And we could specify the font of the paragraph. So these are just dumb examples, but we could put the font as being, so put font family, Calibri. Calibri is a very good font for websites because it's sans serif. So there you go. So that looks better. But now you see that this goes throughout the whole page, and that's not very nice to look at. So we can say that the width of this paragraph is limited to let's say 400 pixels, and that's the unit that you will use mostly in CSS, and pixels are just what the screen is made of, as you probably know. So there you have it, and you can see that the width is limited to only 400 pixels. So there you have a header and then a paragraph, and yeah, there are tons and tons of tags that you can use in HTML. The paragraph, big different types of headers, span, but the main one that you will probably be using is this tag called the div tag, and div just means a part of the website. It doesn't specify that it's a paragraph, doesn't specify that it's a title. It's just a section, and you can use it in any way you want and then style it in CSS. Because many of the tags in HTML will have predefined styling, like in an H1 is going to be bold and quite big, and all the headers will go down. If you put H2, it will just be a bit smaller. So second header. See, it will be a bit smaller, and it goes down to H6. So all those headers, and they have all predefined styles. You can specify a big tag, you can specify a small tag, a superscript, a subscript, all these different tags, but mainly you'll be using just the div, and a div is just it's just a kind of just a division. So you can write this. You see, and it just displays like that. It doesn't have any predefined styling. It doesn't have a jump like in the paragraph. The paragraph will automatically go down one line, have a line break. The headers as well, but the div is just very easy to use, and then you can style it in CSS. You can style all the stylings without having to worry about any predefined stylings that come with the HTML. So that's why I like using divs a lot. But the problem with that is that in very complicated sites, if you have everything as being a div almost, then you don't know how to call it with the CSS, because if you have a lot of different divs and you want to make them different, style them differently, then you might want to do this, and this is where attributes come in. So let's change this text here. This is the second div. I am red. This is the div. I am bold. If I select it just by putting div, and I say color red. Whoops, I forgot to say this. You see, they're all going to be red, obviously, because I haven't specified. So the thing that you have to do is specify the class of each element, and the class is just an attribute, so like the rel, and this is very, very important in CSS. So you just call it something, you call it a name. So you can say class standard div. Perfect. And then just call everyone second and third. Okay, so now we have all these three different classes. So then here, it's very easy to select them. And you don't just put second div, you have to put dot second div, because dot will specify the class. Okay, so then you can see that only the second one is gonna be red. And then if you want to make the third one bold, very easy, specify that you're styling the third div. Oops. And then you just put font weight bold. And there you go. So the third one is bold. And then if you still want to have a style that affects all three divs, then you can still call the div tag, and maybe the font. I hate that font for websites, so you can say font family. Font family. What could it be? Helvetica. There you go. So this is how it works. The class selectors and then the element selectors. And on top of the class, there's also this other selector called the ID. And the difference between the ID and the class, which get used normally in almost the same way, is that you can have more than one element be of one class. So I could make all of these divs part of the divs class, and you can have multiple classes per element. So I can call all of these part of the divs. Okay. Still won't have affected this. But if I want to call, let's say that I want font family Helvetica for all of the divs. Okay, that won't change anything. But then let's say that we have one special div, the third div, that wants to be unique. So we put an identity to it. So we say special div. Okay, so we specify the ID, and you can't have more than one you can have more than one element with the same ID, like in classes. In classes, you can have as many elements as you want, as many classes per element, and as many elements per class. But in IDs, one ID goes to one element, and one element has one ID. And the element and the ID or class is not mandatory either. But here, the ID is specified by the hashtag. So if we put special div, and then we want the font family to be something different, let's put Courier. You can see the third one gets changed because it's specifying only the ID. Okay, so this is just the basic way that CSS and HTML work together. And this is, I mean, I said this a lot, but this is still very, very simple. Many sites are going to be extremely huge, and so all these classes and IDs and having them ordered and with names that are easy to remember for every developer in the team is very important. So the ordering and everything is very important. But yeah, so this is the basic. Next, I think I should tell you a little bit about jQuery and JavaScript, because we really haven't touched upon that yet. And yeah, still for now, for these very simple sites, it seems to be useless and a kind of a weird concept to think about, the JavaScript and making it dynamic. But it is very, very important for complicated sites. So I just want to give you a simple example here. So again, we have to make a new file, and this time we have to save it as a JavaScript file. And also, one thing you have to do is link the jQuery and the thing, but as a script. You don't link it as a link, because link is only for style sheets. So you specify a script, and then the source of that script, but we still haven't made that. So let's save this file as hello.js. You can do that right here. JavaScript file. Save. Now, you might be confused about me saying this jQuery and then JavaScript. And that's because they're two different things, but jQuery is a library of JavaScript, which just means that some people got together and decided that JavaScript was too complicated and didn't have enough features, so using JavaScript, they wrote a very intuitive library that everybody should use. Nobody should be using pure JavaScript anymore because it's designed very badly. But with jQuery, it's very, very useful and easy to do. So the thing that you have to do is search for the jQuery Google API. jQuery API. Google. And Google is very kind to host all these libraries so that developers can use them. And so here it tells you that that you can use this link right here to call the script. And this is, again, is just a file online. There you go. So we're saying that the source of a script is this, and this is just calling that we're using the jQuery library to write our JavaScript. Okay. So now let's see what we can actually do with this. Using hello.js, we have to also link the hello.js. So hello. Okay. Okay, so now we should have hello and jQuery being called, and we can check that by inspecting the page, checking head, and there we go. So we have script, and the source is that, and we have also the source as being that, being called from our folder. Okay, so what can we do here? What can jQuery do? And with this stuff here, maybe we can't do too much, so I'm gonna just delete it for now. But let's do a little thing where we create a button, because buttons for in more complicated, maybe social networking sites are very, very important, because that's where the user can input and submit data. So we put a little button, and we'll say show me a word. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. So it's a little button like this, and HTML, as I told you, has all these different tags. Button is one, and it's pre-styled like that, and that looks terrible. It's in the in the page at the top, and it's gray. Nobody wants to look at that. So we could style that button a little bit. So let's say button. And I'll walk you through all the functions that you can do in CSS a bit later, but for now you can just learn the basics. So we put padding, and padding, what it does is just spaces out from the content of the button or whatever. So that, and in this case it's the button, so it's just the writing in the center of it, and it spaces it out from the border. So if I say padding and it goes clockwise from top, and you put different things, so you put 15 pixels, and that means 15 pixels of distance from the top. If I just put that, it should work on all sides, but I would like a little bit more padding here. So you can see what happens if I do. So here you can see that there's no padding on the left and right sides, but only top and bottom. So that represents the top, that represents bottom, and then that's right and that's left, if I remember correctly. So it's normally, for a button, is nice to have 20 pixels, a little bit more on the sides to have it a bit thinner. So there you go, that's slightly better. Then we can say that the background color is something good. Let's call it CSS has these saved colors. It doesn't look too good, but it's okay. And Dodger Blue is one of them. But if you can't call it a specific color like Dodger Blue, then you have to put in the hex value, but I'll talk about that later. So then you put color white, and let's put border 1 pixel solid CCC. CCC is just a light. So it looks pretty bad. Let's change that to something black and white. I like black and white. Okay, not too bad. And one more cool thing you can do is get a border radius. And that just, as you can see, will give it rounded corners, which looks much better. Okay, so now the button is styled. It should be positioned maybe a little bit more central, so we can say margin top 100 pixels and margin left 100 pixels. This is still very bad positioning, but there you have it. Actually, let's not do the margin. Just keep it simple. Okay, so there it is. One important thing to do, just to show to the user that it is a button rather than just a text box, not a text box, but just a just a div, and they can click on it, is to alter the pointer, and so the pointer. Cursor, and the cursor is like the little thing done by the mouse, and for buttons it's best to put the pointer so that the user knows that it can be clicked. So everywhere around it, it's just a normal little arrow, but when it goes on the button, you can click it like that. And right now it's not doing anything on the click, but that's what we're gonna do next with the jQuery. Okay, so there we have the button. Okay, so now I'm in the JS file, which has been linked. But before we can do anything, let's add a little thing where where I can write a word that then will be shown by the jQuery. So I can put a little span. The span is another kind of tag, and I can put a word just to take his command literally. Okay, but if I do that, then it's gonna be already shown. So I want to say hidden, and if you put the hidden attribute, it will disappear. Okay, so now what can we do to make it so that when the user clicks this button, that text appears? So the user sees the button, it says show me a word. He clicks it, and the word appears. Well, that's where jQuery comes in. So jQuery is just this library that is specified a bit like PHP. It's a little bit confusing, but it's specified by the $. So when you put the $sign in a JavaScript file, because we're in a JavaScript file, we haven't said that it's a jQuery. It's just that it comes after the calling of the jQuery. But when we put that $sign, we say to the computer, we're using jQuery right now, so follow the commands of jQuery. And jQuery is just a long file full of information on how the computer can use JavaScript. So here, the first thing that you have to do is specify that the document is ready, and they've minimized that by just putting function. So if you put that at the beginning of a jQuery JavaScript file, you're specifying that you're using jQuery, and you're saying to the computer, make sure that the document is ready in the browser, and then you can perform all the functions that I'm gonna specify right now. If you don't specify that it's this, then it won't know that you're using jQuery, and it's gonna try to run it as if it's real JavaScript, and that's gonna cause a lot of problems. So this is the first thing that you put in a JavaScript file if you're using jQuery, which you should be using. Okay, so what we want to do here, we want him to push the button, and then that gets displayed. So what we do is we specify an element, and it's a little bit like in CSS. You can call an element like this, and since it's being linked in here, it knows that it's talking about this file right here. So here we're selecting button, And that creates, again, putting the $sign, that means that tells the computer that we're using jQuery, and that creates a jQuery object that contains all the information about this, and then can alter it or return information about it. So let's say I want to see some information about it from this object. I could say button. Let's put a class on it. Click me. Let's say we are really curious about what class this button has. Then I could create that and say, give me the attribute that is class. Okay? And we can alert that. And when you alert, just means that that a little bubble will come up on the screen. I'll show you right now. So this will load, and then it will show you the class of that. You see? So here we're making the jQuery return a value of an attribute of the button, but we want it to be so that when you click the button, it shows something. So here we're not returning some information about it, but we're actually commanding it to do something. And to do that, we use a similar thing, right where we put in atch before, but we say something like click, and this will set off an event handler. So you specify the function that should happen after the event handler. So let me explain that. So here you're specifying this as the jQuery object that you're going to be using, okay, after the document is loaded. So you're saying to the computer, hey, give me this, and give me all the information about it, and they transform it into an object that they know everything about. And then you attach the click event handler on. And event handler just means, in JavaScript terms, just means something that will happen when something happens on the screen. And here that something is a click. So all you're saying is that when the user clicks button, then this function should happen. And a function is just then, again, as I specified here, is just a series of commands that I'm going to write right now. So we want it to show the little word. So we want it to unhide this span. So the way you do that, you select span, like that, create it into an object, and then you can command it to do something. And since it's hidden, you can say show. And there are lots of lists. There's a huge list of all the different little functions that you can use, like click and show, and you can list them, in long lists. So you can't just use any function that comes to your mind, but there are lots and very useful ones. So let's see how that works. So I load this, I click the button, and that will come up. Okay? So what if we want it so that then this, when you click that again, the word disappears? So we could do that too. So we could say button click function, and then again, if it gets clicked, so we copy and paste that. So here we're saying if it gets clicked, show that. If it gets clicked again, so putting this in there, then we can rehide it. And the opposite of show is hide. So let's see if that works. Okay, and then click again, and it hides, and then it works. Okay. But see here, it's still saying show me a word when you click back, right? So what if we wanted it to change the inside of the button to say hide the word? Okay, so we can do that also. So we can say button again, specify that it's a button, and then we can change the HTML inside it. So if we put HTML there, it can return us the value of the HTML inside the button, which, inside these tags, this is going to be the HTML inside these tags. So this is what it's going to return. So if we say alert this, Okay, I click that, and it's going to alert exactly what's inside the button. Okay, and then show that. Okay, but what happens if I want to change the actual HTML inside? I can do that too, because I can specify what it says. So I can say hide the word. Okay, I do that, and it shows the word, and it says hide the word. So then I click it again, and now it's going to show, because we still haven't said that it has to return to show me a word. So that's going to be hiding, and then show me a word. So then it will show me, and then I click again, and there it is. So this is what jQuery does, and it's so amazing. If you were to see the way that JavaScript, what you would have to write in JavaScript to make this work, it would be it's so much more complicated, and this is so much easier to follow. Just these small little functions and objects. So jQuery is really useful. And that's what it does. And here, you know, it seems that this is a really stupid application, just showing that, you know. But in complicated websites where you want to have things being displayed on one side and then being hidden, and then animations and things like that, then the JavaScript element is very important. So I hope that you now understand a bit better the client side of things, because what we've been going through are the big three of the client side web development. And next, I think we're definitely gonna go through the server side, because that's another big part of it. And then we're gonna start going through in detail everything to do with HTML and CSS and JS and everything else.